You can certainly make the argument things had flatlined. You could certainly make the argument things in Seahawks land had become more of the same every year, that despite Russell Wilson's greatness, it became Groundhog Day, where every year it's, are they opening up the offense enough? Are they protecting Russell Wilson enough? Is there enough talent around Russell Wilson? Is Pete Carroll still young enough to do this job? Still effective enough to do this job? Does Russ and Pete see eye to eye? What are they going to do? Who are they going to trade for? Who are they going to draft? What do they have to improve? And the last 5 years basically have been the same thing for the Seahawks. This is a terrifying reality, a terrifying one if you're a Seahawks fan, because you've had a Hall of Fame QB for a decade, and now you're right back to where all of these franchises searching and seeking for one are that never do much of anything. And it's why the Broncos got that desperate. You know, who's to say that 5 years from now, 6 years from now, after spinning the wheel multiple times on a QB, the Seahawks don't feel the same exact way the Broncos do today and say, fine, we'll give up 2 1s, 2 2s, and 3 players. We just need a quarterback. That's in play. It just reminds me that the window to win and win big is so small that you have to go all in. It's why the Rams dealt what they dealt for Matthew Stafford. And it's why whatever they had traded for Matthew Stafford, whether it's 2 firsts or 3 firsts or 10 firsts, if you won a Super Bowl, it's really all that matters. Because let's think about this. The Seahawks got a Super Bowl ring. They got a win. They hung a banner. They got a title. They've got a Lombardi trophy in that trophy case. And because of it, at least the franchise and the fans have that from Russell Wilson's era. At least you had that title. Nothing else happened, but you got one championship, the first one in franchise history. If the Chiefs never get another ring, at least they got that one with Patrick Mahomes. Ultimately, it would be a disappointment, but it wouldn't be a tragedy. If Aaron Rodgers never wins another one, at least they got the one in 2011 or 2010. Drew Brees never got another one, but Saints fans will always have 09. As long as you have that one moment, that one ring. LeBron got his ring in Cleveland in 2016. And his exit wasn't great. And it's always been a complicated relationship with LeBron. But Cavs fans at least got that. The Cubs window was pretty small. At least they broke the drought. They got that ring. If you don't, it becomes tragic. It becomes the Buffalo Bills of the 1990s. If you don't, it's impossible to sit with. So at least they got the one ring. But for the Seattle Seahawks of 2013 to have had a young QB and a young, great defense, historically great, and an excellent running back in his prime, for them to have been to 2 Super Bowls back-to-back and then just kept coming up short, it does feel as though the Seahawks squandered a good bit of his prime. And it's the unfortunate reality, but it is the reality. It's hard not to feel as though if you win a ring in 2013, you get back in 2014, there needed to be more bites at that apple than the Seahawks got. The year after they go back-to-back Super Bowls, they lose in the divisional round to the Panthers. The year after that, they lose in the divisional round against the Falcons. The year after that, 9-7, missed the playoffs. The year after that, lost in the wild card to the Cowboys. Year after that, they lost in the divisional round of the Packers. Year after that, they lost in the wild card of the Rams. This past year, sub 500. They go to back-to-back Super Bowls with a team that is not even in its prime yet. It's still getting there. And they never got past the divisional round after that. 8 years later, not a soul remains on the roster from the Super Bowl win. And just think about the Marshawn Lynch play. Just think about that. And how different everything would feel if they handed the football off, scored a touchdown, and had back-to-back rings. Then you'd be talking about Russell Wilson was the quarterback of one of the historically great teams of all time because very few win back-to-back titles. And instead, you feel like, gosh, we only got one ring out of that. You had Russell Wilson, got one ring. You had a Hall of Fame quarterback and multiple Hall of Famers on defense. I mean, remember, when they win in 2013, Richard Sherman's not old. Cam Chancellor's not old. Earl Thomas isn't old. Bobby Wagner isn't old. Bennett's not old. Avrill's not old. Marshawn Lynch for a running back is quote-unquote old, but it's not the end of the line for him. I mean, it was there. It is very much like the greatest show on turf. And 20 years later, at least Kurt Warner has one. At least Marshall Faulk has a ring. At least Isaac Bruce, Orlando Pace, Torrey Holt have a ring. But you go, boy, there probably should have been more there. That's how I feel about the Seahawks. That's how I feel about the 2013 Seahawks. I'll never forget the day after or 2 days after the Super Bowl when they won and they beat the Broncos and whipped up on Peyton Manning and the Broncos. I did a radio spot in Seattle. And the host asked me, did I think that this was a could-be, would-be dynasty? And, you know, I don't throw around that often because I know how hard it is, and I hate when analysts just kind of flippantly say they can do this. Somebody not long ago said that Ja Morant of the Grizzlies could become the Spurs, and I just wanted to vomit. I mean, that's a Spurs franchise that went to 6 NBA Finals and won 5 rings. Tim Duncan's one of the 20 greatest players of all time, perhaps one of the 10 greatest players of all time, perhaps one of the 8 greatest players of all time. Like, Ja Morant hasn't been to the playoffs yet. So I hate when we get ahead of ourselves, but at the time I said, yes, this has all the makings of a dynasty. It's a team that's young. They got a ring early. They didn't have to wait and grind through bad losing playoff experiences. They've got the quarterback in place. They've got a defense that's one of the best in the NFL, if not the best in the NFL right now already. And they have a head coach that's going to be there a while. This was not a Vermeil thing where you retire after the Super Bowl and there's a transition to Mike Martz. Pete Carroll's going to be around. And to think that from that moment in time, they got back once and then didn't get past the divisional round again, just goes to show you how fleeting that window is. And that, yes, the last 5 or 6 years, as Earl Thomas got injured and retired, and Cam Chancellor got injured and retired. Thomas had to, of course, leave before he retired. But it definitely feels incomplete. It does. And it feels like at least the last 5 years or so squandered. And I'm not saying the Seahawks didn't try. They drafted DK Metcalf. They tried to help on the offensive line. They tried the last couple of years to have more of a run game to balance things out offensively. They traded for Jamal Adams. They've tried, but just everything they've tried hasn't worked.